What's going on, guys? My name is Zed and welcome to this video. This week I am feeling a bit under the weather, so I am just sitting in my chair. I usually record right up there. I'm just going to sit down, relax, have a nice conversation. This video might run a little bit longer than the most recent Last Week I Watches, but I just wanted to relax and just chat about movies. That's what I want to do. So that's what I'm going to do. So I have my Sprite, I have my movie list because I am very forgetful right now in my foggy head. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So to start off the week, I kind of wanted to step away from Halloween movies as I'm trying to figure out which ones I want to watch. And I popped in The Perfect Storm. Now, I've had this movie in my collection now for what seems to be about a year maybe. And I've always kind of scrolled past it when looking through my movies and thought, you know what, one day I'll pop that in and I'll watch that movie. But something I've mentioned quite a few times here on the channel is that I have a big deathly fear of open water, and nothing is more scary to me than drowning and what lies beneath the waves, what lies in the dark of the ocean. Like, it terrifies me. So even though this is not necessarily a Halloween movie, it still scares the hell out of me. When I finished watching this movie, I had an overwhelming feeling of depression because this movie really bummed me out. Some of the reviews are kind of mixed, and I thought that maybe this would be, you know, a somewhat decent story, but it's based on a true story. And a little fact that's actually kind of funny, but also very serendipitous, is that this story takes place on October 30th, and is dubbed the Halloween Storm, like the true events. I think it's 1991 when it happened, which is just, it's kind of funny that I picked a non-Halloween movie that just happened to take place on Halloween. But The Perfect Storm follows a crew of fishermen who get caught in one of the biggest storms ever recorded. I can't remember where exactly the storm happened at, and unfortunately they all lost their lives. And that's kind of the thing that really hit me close to home, was this is not a happy ending story. When you watch a movie like this, you kind of expect there to be some type of happy ending. You expect that, you know, there might be some casualties along the way, but there's no way everyone's going to be lost. But that's just the unfortunate truth. And as I sat on it more, I kind of started thinking to myself, well, how did they know what happened, what truly happened? That's something that they don't know. They truly don't know. They couldn't have known what happened. I mean, there were times where the crew of the fishing boat had radio calls back and forth, had radio contact, and they, you know, had like an established connection and said a couple things that they were doing. But when it comes to the overall story, it's very much so doctored up to be something more grandiose, possibly. I don't really know, but I feel like if any of those men were alive today, they might look down upon this movie as it's probably not exactly accurate to what had happened. And there's a lot of things that I just don't know how they would have, they meaning the writers and the directors and people producing this movie, I don't know how they would have known. So for that, I feel like this is definitely a Hollywooded true story and doesn't necessarily hold many of the true facts. But that's not to say that I did not enjoy this movie. I did. It made me feel very strongly for the characters, but for the true story aspect, I'm kind of bummed out that I highly doubt this is all that true. So The Perfect Storm, I gave initially 4 out of 5 stars, but I'm going to dock it down to 3.5 out of 5 stars. To continue with the true stories on the ocean, I watched The Finest Hours. Now, when I went into this movie, I didn't realize I had seen it before, but bits and pieces started coming back to me, especially with the character of, what was her name? The fiance character to Chris Pine, and then also everybody that was on board of the tanker that split in half. I remembered a lot of their stories, but and thankfully, because they were so memorable, they happened just to be my favorite people in the story, the fiance and the people on board of the tanker. Now, that's not to say that I did not enjoy Chris Pine and his group that were on the boat, the rescue boat, but I just felt like I got to know and connected more with those other two sides. This movie is pretty well done. I mean, I enjoyed it. I was captivated throughout, and I was rooting for them, and I was rooting for every side, and it honestly broke my heart hearing the fiance character, which Maureen, is it Maureen? I'm not going to say it's Maureen because I don't remember now, but I just remember her pleading to the captain of the Coast Guard unit, and her just pleading to please tell them to come back. Please tell them to come back. Please, like, tell them to come. They're just like pleading with him. And he's played by Eric Bana. And just how much it really hurt to watch that scene of just her pleading for her husband's life, or her soon-to-be husband's life. The Finest Hours, I would give 3 out of 5 stars. Very enjoyable. And Casey Affleck, though he has his problems, he's such a fantastic actor. I also found out that Casey Affleck's character isn't a true person, but he kind of was one of my favorite characters in the movie just because he's a great actor. And then next up, I watched Deepwater Horizon. I was still fairly young when the oil spill on the Gulf Coast occurred, but I remember it very vividly. I remember a lot of the newscasts and the underwater footage, and seeing the fire and the smoke. I remember these things. It burned for quite a few days after the initial explosion, and then I'm pretty sure the oil spill continued for a couple of weeks maybe, but I do remember it very vividly being a 24/7 news segment. When I initially went into Deepwater Horizon, I didn't know that was the story I was about to get. You know, I'm initially introduced to these characters. They're setting up their kind of camaraderie and their family aspects, and showing you who these people are. You're falling in love with them. You're getting attached to them. Mark Wahlberg, one of my favorite actors to watch. He should have won the Oscar for Best Performance in Daddy's Home 2. He was snubbed, but I digress. You fell in love with these characters. You got so attached to them, and then I see the little BP logos on the supervisors, or whoever they are, the people that were sent over by BP to assess the drilling rig, and I was like, oh, I know what this is. And then watching it unfold was just heartbreaking. It truly sets up a great villain in John Malkovich's character, and just shows how it seriously went wrong, and how money and greed is such an not even underlining, it's an overwhelming power in disaster and tragedy. And this movie was captivating to watch because, again, you had so much attachment to these characters and watching them go through something and knowing as an audience member what is going to happen to these characters and are they going to survive, are they not, what's going to happen. It was true terror. It was terror to watch. It was quite gut wrenching. And I blubbered a couple of times. I definitely was crying and going, trying to catch my breath because it was so sad. Every character in this movie was absolutely fantastic. Deepwater Horizon, 5 out of 5 stars. Really, really enjoyed it. So I kept the water trend going and went for more of a sci-fi themed water horror experiments, thriller thing, whatever the hell it is. And I watched The Abyss. Now, this is a James Cameron movie that I have heard of a couple times, and I have watched breakdowns of its groundbreaking effects with like the water alien creature. After watching Deepwater Horizon, I was on YouTube, and again, I was watching a video and they talked about the effects of that movie, and I said, you know what, I'm gonna watch that next. So, and I watched it, and I enjoyed it. I really did. I liked the relationships between all the characters. They had, again, definitely had a family vibe to it. And then also I would say the two main actors, the husband and wife duo, who were at odds but also had an immense love for each other and their story arcs, and there are some ups and downs that happened with it that were very I had an emotional connection to it. I do think that I don't fully know what the movie was about and what fully happened in the movie. And not as if I was confused and following the plot. I feel like the plot kind of confused itself. But The Abyss, for the most part, maybe with a second viewing, holds up pretty well. And I would give it 3.5 out of 5 stars.
Hey, what you doing down here, bro?
It's too late to fight back now. We are going to wipe you out like the vermin you are.
And then next up, I watched one of the worst movies I have seen all year, which is Vampires versus the Bronx. This movie suffers in basically every area. The writing, the directing, the acting, the visual effects. It's not like a funny movie, even though it's like listed as a comedy. It's not funny. There are very, very few moments of like a true enjoyability. Not that I was sitting through this movie like, this movie sucks, this movie's horrible, but I just never felt like attached throughout, except for one character, which is the owner of the bodega. I liked him. He was a good father figure to the boys. I hate talking about and criticizing young actors because I can't act. But if you're going to cast a young actor, cast a good one. And they didn't cast any good actors in this entire movie. I love watching a movie full of unfamiliar faces because you don't sit there and think to yourself, oh, that's Brad Pitt playing this character, or that's George Clooney playing this character. Like, you want to see those characters as those characters. I am in love with movies that I am not familiar with its cast. But in this movie, I wish I was familiar with one or two of them. Coco Jones, I was familiar with, but she was not great in this movie. It just overall just suffers in so many areas. When you have a movie about these immortal beings, these beings of immense power, strength, they are like the apex predator. They have been around for centuries. They have fought armies. They have controlled armies. They have taken down the world's greatest leaders. These guys are fucking badass. And they're beaten by a bunch of kids in about 5 minutes. And the head vampire, the badasses of badasseries, is javelined in the chest by a kid on a bicycle? What? It's just pathetic. I have NyQuil in my system. I'm a bit I'm a bit fuzzy. But I truly feel that this is one of the worst movies I've seen all year. Vampires versus the Bronx. 1.5 out of 5 stars. And I think my favorite movie this week, next to Deepwater Horizon, was the newest collaboration between Adam Sandler and his production company and Netflix, and that's Hilary Halloween. Now, Adam Sandler has had this contract for a couple of years now, and I actually plan next month to do a binge of all of Adam Sandler's Netflix original movies and kind of ranking them to see, which one's the best. But Hilary Halloween took Adam Sandler back to his roots, and I really, really like that. He plays a very empathetic character who is just super lovable, and you care for him immediately. He is a character who seems to have developmental issues, but he has a heart of gold. He does nothing but try to help people, and he's very caring and loving. And the town of Salem, which this movie takes place in, they're just very abusive to him. It's a town full of assholes with very few good souls scattered throughout. But for a town with a history of killing people for no fucking reason, I guess assholes kind of run in their bloodlines. This movie's plot was never straightforward. It was kind of keeping you guessing throughout, and I like that. It was definitely refreshing for an Adam Sandler movie not to know where we're going to start and where we're going to end right from the get-go. Again, Adam Sandler was just perfect for this movie. It has a all-star cast with just all of Sandler's frequent collaborators, all his friend group, but also just great celebrity cameos and stars like Steve Buscemi and Shaquille O'Neal, and basically every single Disney child star that I grew up with, all in this movie, and it's fantastic. And it ends with a very great memoriam for Cameron Boyce, who recently passed away and was friends and family with a lot of the cast and crew. So Hubie Halloween is just super charming. It was just very, very charming, and I hope to see this character again from Sandler, because I feel like there's more that they could do with it. There's more story they can tell, especially with the ending and the love story and what have you. And I feel like the town of Salem might need a savior again, in one aspect or another. And having a movie where everyone is cheering Hubie on, like they did at the end of the flick, would be very refreshing as well, because they were a bunch of fucking assholes. Overall, Hubie Halloween, again, great. I would love to see this character again. 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now, if you have made it this far, then I greatly appreciate you. This is a very laid-back last week I watched, but I needed it. I needed the time just to relax and try to feel better. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you all enjoyed, and until next time, guys, I'll be seeing you later. Peace.